Welcome to the Cover Your Assets podcast, a show for the physician who understands the importance of protecting everything you've worked so hard to achieve. If you're ready to find the peace of mind that only financial security can bring, let's get started. Here's your host, Billy Gwaltney.
Hello, welcome to today's episode of the Cover Your Assets podcast. I'm your host, Billy Gwaltney. It's good to be with you as always. Today's topic is answering the question, what is a foreign travel exclusion? Anytime my clients, I work with thousands of physicians across the country, many of whom are not from the U.S. and have another country of origin. And anytime we apply or they apply for private specialty disability coverage, there's a possibility of what's called a foreign travel exclusion. And sometimes the top carriers, there are only 4 top tier specialty carriers that we work with. They're excellent. Sometimes they will include a foreign travel exclusion. So they'll include an exclusion, which means that, and I'm going to define what that means. Sometimes they won't. It can mean different things depending on the carrier. But the bottom line, a foreign travel exclusion means that if you are in the country that you're originally from, they will not pay benefits beyond the elimination period. Now, you're fully covered while you're visiting that country typically, okay? But in order to collect benefits once you're disabled, you would need to have a permanent residence within the U.S., okay? Now, that does not mean you cannot continue to visit that country, but it does mean that if you're living in that country, you would not be eligible to receive benefits if you're disabled. Now, what's important to understand is that someone that has a U.S. citizenship and doesn't originally is from the U.S. or has a green card or is a U.S. citizen, the longest the top carriers will let someone live overseas and collect benefits is typically 1 year, okay? So the only difference between a green card holder and a U.S. citizen and a visa holder from a different country is that if they include this foreign travel exclusion, that 1 year time frame is removed. And in order to collect benefits, you would need to have a permanent residence within the U.S. It typically does not mean that you're not covered in that country unless they explicitly state that. Where they may say that would be if your country of origin is currently in a war or is seen as simply not safe to be there. So if you are visiting that country and the insurance carrier determines that you would be at additional risk or kind of an uncontrolled risk because that country is in a war or has been in a war or has rebels fighting against the government or vice versa on a kind of continuous basis, or that's been happening for a prolonged period of time over the last decade or two, then there could be a scenario where they're saying, not only are we going to not pay you if you live in that country, we're not going to cover you if you're visiting that country or while you're visiting that country. But you would know that up front. Generally speaking, a foreign travel exclusion simply means that in order to collect benefits, you would need to have a permanent residence within the U.S., okay? Now, this is not what I tell clients is this is not a forever type of scenario where it's written in the disability contract that, hey, you're never going to be covered if you're overseas. This is a kind of a fluid situation depending on the country. Now people can live in Canada and continue to collect benefits. People can live in U.S. territories such as Puerto Rico and continue to collect benefits. There's one company that's allowing someone to live in certain countries as long as they have a U.S. bank account, and the disability benefits can be paid into that U.S. bank account. So this is an ongoing situation. You would want to make sure that you're, number one, clear in what that exclusion means. Number two, you would want to make sure you're working with a specialist that understands these nuances and speaks directly with the insurance carriers. And it usually is fairly similar across all four carriers, but there could be differences. One company came out with a modified foreign travel exclusion several years ago, where they were basically going to allow someone to live anywhere in the world and collect benefits. They didn't keep that out there very long. They pulled it. And so insurance carriers are trying to get their arms around what does it mean to live in a world that's much smaller now and people travel and live in other places. The primary concern that insurance companies have is access to health care. And so if there is a foreign travel exclusion, it usually has to do with their concern that you would be able to get proper health care so that you could hopefully continue to recover and maybe return to work. So that's usually what it's about. But it is a case-by-case situation, and it's fluid, which means it can change. So make sure that when you're applying for coverage, and if you do have a foreign travel exclusion, you understand fully what that means. It usually simply means that you need to be in the U.S. to collect benefits. It does not usually mean that you're not covered while you're in that country. Hope you found this helpful. Happy to discuss your situation in more detail. Reach out to me. You can text me at 704-270-2376. Again, 704-270-2376, and excited to speak with you. Thank you, as always, for your time. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Cover Your Assets podcast, an Odd Conduit media production. New episodes drop every 2 weeks. If you've enjoyed the conversation, subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. For more tips and advice, visit the website and YouTube channel. Check the show notes for links. Join us next time for another episode dedicated to helping physicians like you get your disability insurance right and protect your way of life.